Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing well. Today's video I wanted to talk about self-security. I just realised that it kind of sounds like an ad for a VPN service, but that's not the sort of self-security I'm talking about, rather being secure with yourself. I think that's a better way of phrasing it. But my main sort of message here is knowing who you are as a person, knowing what you want from life, and having a set of sort of moral codes and philosophy that you kind of apply to your life. I think a really good example of, not being secure with yourself is written in quite an infamous book and was portrayed by a character in this book, the main character. And a lot of you guys may know this book. I have it here with me. Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. And for those of you who haven't read it, I would recommend reading it. I think it's a good read. It is quite infamous. I know a lot of people don't like Murakami's work, and I can see why they don't. But regardless, it was definitely hard to put down. I'm not, too much of a fast reader, but I read this in 4 days, because it was so hard to put down. But it's always been in my mind, I never felt quite settled after reading it, if that kind of makes sense. Now, that could be due to the ending because, I was going on Reddit because I was so unsatisfied with the ending. And a lot of people had the same sort of opinion as me, where they felt the ending was quite rushed and quite unnecessary. I think that's the best word for it. But another reason why I was really interested in, thinking about this book a lot was because of the main character, Toru Watanabe. Now, Toru is a drama student who's currently studying in Tokyo, and the book sort of follows his life of that year and a couple years afterwards as well. But one sort of interesting thing I realised while reading this book is Toru doesn't really know what he wants. He sort of does these random things on impulse and on whim, and he, stays to bear the consequences, and you can see how it affects the people around him too, and other sort of consequences. And, reading from Toru's perspective, it made me realise the importance of knowing what you want, and not just living life impulsively. Because our life is very short and truly we don't know when it's going to end. So I do think that, living it randomly is sort of devaluing life in a way. And I do think that life's so precious that giving it some sort of meaning and living life in a sort of structured way is not only respecting life, but making your life more enjoyable. Now, not a lot of people may agree with me on this, and that's fine. I completely understand that. But for me especially, I think living life with a sort of structure, a sort of moral code, and a sort of purpose really, motivated me in the sense of waking up every day and knowing why I'm sort of living this life. Otherwise, I didn't really know what I was living for. And I do think that while I was reading this book especially, it made me realise how dangerous that can be. But there's no simple answer to why you're living your life or how you want to live your life. And I do think that it's a sort of thing that constantly evolves as you live your life, because as you start to, experience more things and learn more things, your perspective may change, and that's definitely something that will happen to you. It's kind of like what Marcus Aurelius said in this book, Meditations, which is one of the greatest books ever written. But rather, the Stoic way of looking at it is more rigid than I'd want it to be. I think having a structure that rigid could also sort of be dangerous in another way. I think it's rather having a mix of both, where you know what you're living for, you know how you want to lead your life, but also adapting it accordingly so, it can change regarding specific circumstances in the future. Now, on finding your purpose and finding why you want to live and how you want to live, is completely in your hands. But there are so many great sources and so many different ways that can help you find your meaning and find your purpose. That could be a job, it could be a personal goal, some hobbies. One of the great ways that I found some sort of meaning and sort of philosophies that I can apply to my life is through reading, through literature, through philosophy, through fiction books. I think people really underestimate fiction books, and people kind of think of it as childish and unrealistic. But I think there's so many lessons and things that we can use and adapt to our lives. I also think it's really important having hobbies, because it's important to keep life in balance. And if you're just gonna, work, imagine your goal is work. If you're just gonna keep on constantly doing that, you're so prone to burning out. And I can really see that in my life. I truly believe having a sort of balance and having a sort of fresh mind where you wake up every day knowing what you're striving for is really important in achieving that goal. Yes, you do want to dedicate yourself fully to your goal, but if that's the only thing you're going to do for the whole day, you're bound to get sick of it. So I do believe that balance is important in that case. But to conclude, my point is that life's too short to give it no meaning and live it randomly. We don't know when we're going to die, and I think it's really important to remember that. It's kind of like what it says in this book about memento mori. I think is really important to remember that phrase and just keep it in the back of my mind. But regardless, providing some sort of meaning, structure and philosophy, your personal philosophy to your life, is really important in making it better, and I truly believe that. And the thing is, I don't have to be right. You guys might have your own way of living, and if that works for you, that's great. But this is what works for me, and I just thought I'd want to share that with you guys. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video.